Story by Big Maintenance 6814. Don't check the window. I live in a small town in West Virginia called Clay. Not a lot here, just a few streets, a gas station, and too much quiet at night. My house sits at the end of a dead-end road near a patch of woods that goes on for miles. No streetlights pass my driveway. This started around late January this year. The first time I noticed anything weird was on January 28th, 2026, at exactly 3:17 a.m. I only remember the time because I woke up randomly and checked my phone because I thought somebody texted me. I do wake up sometimes since the vibrations of my phone wake me up. I heard something outside, like gravel shifting. At first, I figured it was a deer, or maybe someone turning around in the cul-de-sac, even though nobody really comes down here that late. I looked out my bedroom window and saw someone standing near my mailbox. At least, I thought it was someone. It was tall, like taller than any person I've seen around here, and it wasn't moving, just standing there facing my house. No phone light, no car, no nothing. Hell, not even a bike. I watched it for maybe 10 seconds before I got this awful feeling, like I shouldn't be looking at it. I closed the curtain and told myself I was half asleep and probably hallucinating. The next morning, I checked outside. No footprints, which is weird because we had a light layer of snow that night. My mailbox was slightly open though. I don't remember leaving it like that. I tried to forget about it, played it off as my mind messing with me and all that. Then it happened again, on February 2nd, 2026, same time, 3:17 a.m. This time I woke up already feeling like something was wrong. I didn't even hear anything at first, I just knew. I checked my phone and yeah, 3:17. This time I knew it wasn't me and my mental health, but something was actually up. I forced myself to look out the window again. It was closer. It wasn't at the mailbox this time. It was halfway up my driveway. Same thing, tall, not moving right. I can't explain it better than that. Its shape looked off, like the proportions weren't human. Too thin, maybe, or too straight. I remember whispering, "What the hell?" out loud. And right after that, it tilted its head. Not like a normal head tilt either. It was slow and too far to one side. I stepped back from the window and didn't look again that night. After that, I started checking every night around that time. Most nights, nothing happened. I started convincing myself it was stress or just my brain messing with me. Then February 11th, 2026 happened. I woke up to something tapping on glass. I thought it was my window at first, since I have trees near my window, and it could be branches tapping against the glass as the wind was blowing, but it wasn't. It was coming from downstairs, the living room. I grabbed my phone and checked the time, 3:17 a.m. again. I don't know why I went downstairs, but I did. You know, gut feeling and all that. The tapping stopped as soon as I hit the last step. The house was completely quiet. I stood there for a minute just listening. Then I looked toward the front door, and since there's a small window at the top of it, something was blocking it from the outside, like something was standing right up against it. I walked closer, slowly, and right when I got about 5 feet away, it moved. Not away from the door. It slid sideways past the glass. I only saw part of it, but it looked way too tall to fit in the frame properly, like I was only seeing a section of something bigger. I didn't open the door, no way. That's like being in a horror movie and letting the killer in or something, I don't know. I locked myself in my bedroom until morning. Here's the part that really messed me up. On February 15th, 2026, I set up an old security camera I hid in my garage and pointed it at the driveway. Nothing fancy, just motion detection. And the next morning, I checked the footage. At 3:17 a.m. it triggered, but there was nothing there. No person or animal, nothing. Just the empty driveway, except for one thing. The audio picked up something. It sounded like footsteps on gravel, slow and heavy, coming toward the camera, then stopping right in front of it. And then there's this noise. I don't even know how to describe it. It almost sounds like breathing, but not quite human. Too steady, too hollow. After that, the video cuts out for about 4 seconds before coming back like normal. I haven't seen it since February 15th. No more tapping. No more waking up at 3:17. But I still wake up around that time sometimes, just automatically now. And every time I do, I have this feeling that if I look outside again, it'll be even closer than before. I don't know what that thing was, but I'm starting to think it noticed me, noticing it. You know, my mind always defaults now when there's a monster involved in the story that it's just an alien. Something doesn't make sense, something doesn't fit. Alien. Now, do I believe there are real creatures and monsters in the world? I really don't know. I've asked myself that question a lot of times, and there's so many folk tales and urban legends about Bigfoot and other myth, skinwalkers and that kind of thing. I think there's Vorgers or something like that too. There's so many names from different cultures, but they could all be describing the same thing. Whoop. Alien imposters that even Dave is afraid of, which is understandable, I think. Now, it's just a theory, and I could be dead wrong on that. Maybe there are no aliens at all. Or I'm 100 trillion% certain there are aliens out there in the universe, even on our intellect level or above. But if they're here or not, that is still debatable. I think there are a lot of signs. There's no conclusive proof, just a lot of signs. Like the movie. But yeah, in this case, if it was an alien, what was the objective? Motive would be a good place to start. Because the alien's objective wouldn't be to prank some random person living alone in the woods or, just scare them, obviously. I mean, I say obviously, but maybe they're just prankster aliens. It's not impossible, okay? Relax. It's not impossible. But no, probably not that. So, the fear response you have, maybe it's unintentional, and then it kind of stopped coming to you, or maybe stopped after it noticed you noticing it. The whole point of observation is, like in particles or like in humans, if they know they're being observed, it alters their behavior. So it makes sense. It's like in TNG when they're observing a lesser species, they disguise themselves. They go behind a rock that is a hologram, so they can see out. It's like a double mirror, but with better technology. And the goal is just to observe what they're really like when no one knows they're watching. Maybe it's just that, but I don't know. If it is an alien, it seems like an odd way to go about it, right? To appear directly. Maybe they just didn't have their better suit that day. I don't know. Or it could just be an actual monster. Maybe I want it to be aliens because aliens, well, they're less malicious. They're not implied necessarily to be malicious. They could be benevolent. Monsters, on the other hand, or beasts, probably not. They're just a threat, which I don't like as much, so it might just be my own bias there. Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Today I have 8 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. My favorite one involves before time. Like the video if you feel so inclined, and let's get to it. Story by My Rules, My Life, Mindy's other owner. Okay, so about 3 years ago, something eerily occurred that I can't logically explain. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was getting ready to take my pug to the vet. The appointment was at 8 a.m., but at 7:30, I strongly considered canceling. It's normally a 20 to 30 minute drive, so I decided to just go. I arrive and check in with the receptionist. Then what she said left me speechless. "You're Albert, right?" "Yes," I responded. "Well, you had called 30 minutes earlier to cancel the appointment for Mindy, my dog." I said to her that couldn't have been true, because I didn't make that call. Then her coworker chimes in and says it was true. that a person that shared my name, phone number, and even the same dog as me had indeed called. We were all confused by the revelation. They believed me in the end and validated my appointment. Thought it was possibly a prank from a relative, but no one else knew about the appointment except for me. I read that maybe it could have been a paradoxical event. Who freaking knows for sure? Story by Sparkle Miroy. Before the First Breath. I've never really known how to explain this without people immediately assuming I'm joking or making it up, but this is something I've remembered for as long as I can remember myself. It doesn't feel like imagination or a dream. It is a memory. I remember this part first before anything else in my whole life. This is not blurry or symbolic, but I lived through it. I know it in the marrow of my bones that it's real. What I remember comes from before I was born. There was nobody there at first. I didn't see hands or feet, and I didn't feel physical weight. I was simply aware. Aware in a calm, quiet way. Like existing without needing to breathe. I was floating? I don't know. But I have consciousness. Everything around me felt vast and open, but not empty. It felt intentional, peaceful, almost like waiting. Then there was a voice. I couldn't see who or what it belonged to, but I understood it perfectly, without needing words explained. I know it's beside me, but no one is there, only light. The voice asked me which planet I wanted to live on. There were several. The voice showed me everything I needed to know in what seemed to be only a moment, even though the information it provided was vast and meaningful. What stood out to me was a blue and round object from far away. I remember being drawn to it immediately because of its color, a deep, vibrant blue that felt alive and beautiful. I felt amazed by it, almost fascinated, and I chose Earth because it looked so pretty. After that, the voice asked me about my path. Communication didn't happen through normal speech. It was more like meaning transferred directly into understanding. I was told to choose what I feel like is something that I want to go through or experience. Suddenly, I became aware of countless wishes and situations, almost like glimpses of lives or possibilities passing by. Among them, one stood out, and it's a family wishing deeply for a baby girl. I could feel their longing and warmth even without seeing them clearly. They felt kind, safe, and their wishes sincere, especially the father's wish to have a baby girl. I chose them. Once I made that choice, everything changed. I remember a sensation of movement, not falling exactly, but descending. It felt like being drawn magnetically toward Earth, slowly shifting from something weightless into something heavier and more focused. My awareness narrowed, like entering a smaller space. The transition felt gradual, not sudden. Then my next memory begins. I was a baby, lying down, staring at a ceiling. Time felt strange, fast and slow at the same time. I remember always staring at the ceiling because I don't know how to sit or stand yet. I couldn't speak or think in words, but I was aware. I remember moving my hands and feet, kicking slightly, just experiencing motion. I'm a baby, and wondering why I'm just staring at the ceiling doing nothing. One of the strongest memories is touching something for the first time and realizing I could feel matter. The sensation amazed me. Texture, resistance, physical presence. It was like discovering what solid meant through my hands. Everything felt new and intensely real. I know how unusual this sounds, and I'm not trying to convince anyone of any belief or interpretation. I'm just sharing everything I remembered consistently since early childhood, long before I understood ideas about spirituality, philosophy, or even where babies come from. I don't know what it means. I only know that, to me, it feels like remembering the moment before life began and the moment I first entered it. Now tell me, how can these memories be just a product of my mind? I have these memories ever since I felt solid matter with my hand. I remember it vividly. That's why no matter where life throws me, I feel like somehow I agreed to go through this in the first place. Before you tell me I'm making stuff up, I want to share that I have these memories before I even knew that the earth is round and is made up of mostly water. I have these memories before I even learned about God or angels or spirits. I have these memories before I even learned about wishing or what a family looks like. I started watching TV when I was 6 years old, and I mostly watched news with my dad, and I remember him cursing at the TV because of our corrupt government. Also, because of the pre-birth memories, I started to believe sincerely in God when I was 7 years old, and had just learned about him at church. Anyways, I don't care if these memories are real or just a product of my imagination. I'll learn about the truth anyway after I die, into a very, very distant future. If I ever talk to that voice again, I'll share with him or her what I've been through, and I'll rate Earth and the humans an 8 out of 10. Highly recommended to workaholics or greedy people. I absolutely adore stories like this, where the idea is that we exist in some state, obviously not in our physical bodies, but our consciousness persists, a unique pattern of self-awareness that exists before we are even born in this physical flesh. And that's just, it's obviously I'm biased. I want to make that always clear. I want that to be true. And obviously these stories that confirm what I want, is that evidence? Maybe, but it's not perfect because there could be other stories that go against it. Okay. So with that out of the way, I just have to say that I love the idea so much, especially in the idea that we get to choose the parameters of our existence in this mortal coil. Because it's the only way that it makes sense, where the brutality of it is so extreme in some cases. Maybe some people choose that. Again, I discussed this the other day with a story similar to this, where, the person was hooked up kind of like to a machine, so it wasn't as floaty and, spiritual. But the principle was the same thing. You get to select where you want to go, and probably, I guess, the difficulty level, right? Like in RimWorld or any other game like that, where the characteristics of your existence are up to you to choose, at least to some extent. There could be some randomness involved, but yeah, if we agreed to be here, more or less knowing the circumstances we'd experience, then it all makes sense and it's moral. Even though you forget, so in the moment, when you're dying of cancer, or born in Somalia, and you're starving to death, or Syria, or in Palestine, or wherever there are war, Ukraine, Russia, wherever it might be, there are places that are so brutal and rough. But maybe they wanted that. Maybe they wanted to test themselves. Can I pull myself out of this and rise above it? It is so fascinating. And it just makes me, imagine, what is my next playthrough going to be? Also makes you imagine, wonder, how does this connect with quantum immortality? Just save states. You have, like in old school games, you had 3 lives before it was game over. In this case, you have hundreds of quintillions of nearly infinite, but not, lives. So you have quite a few chances. Yeah. Basically infinite per the amount of times you could realistically die in one playthrough. We cannot die and ruin the game. It's always safe. Every moment is a checkpoint. I really like that. Story by VGAngel29. Now you see her. My wife and I were just sitting on the couch in the living room. We planned to go get gas, so I went to our bedroom to change out of my pajamas. I heard my wife get up, thinking she was going to put the cat in the cat playroom. I came back out and the living room was empty. I called out for my wife and turned my head to look at the guest bedroom door to see if she'd gone in there, and then back the other way, to the cat playroom. I turned my head again after hearing, "What do you mean? I'm right here." To my surprise, my wife was sitting on the couch, holding the cat in the same spot she had been in before I went to the bedroom, which was in my direct line of sight. Her voice startled me, and all I could say was, "You weren't there a second ago." There's no way she could have walked back to that spot without me seeing her, with the way our house is set up. We just stared at each other for a moment, and then my wife goes, "Are you okay? I've been here the whole time." I could have sworn the couch was empty when I came back out from our bedroom. I'm trying to think logically about this. Maybe she blended in with the couch and my brain didn't process that she was sitting there the whole time? But it also was very spooky, and I had a weird sinking feeling in my gut, and it made me tear up, and now we're postponing our trip to the gas station until morning. Has anything like this ever happened to anyone else? Story by Tony9849G. Faces Reloaded. So first of all, I'll tell you how all this even started. I have this habit. I like watching horror stuff. Exorcism videos, paranormal tapes, all that. That night, around 12 a.m., I was eating dinner and watching the full documentary on Anneliese Michel. Quick summary of Anneliese. She was a young German girl who became famous because of one of the most disturbing exorcism cases ever recorded. She had seizures, strange behavior, and started hearing voices. Her family believed she was possessed, so 2 priests performed 67 exorcism sessions on her. The audio tapes from those sessions are extremely intense. Deep voices, growling, screaming. She eventually died at just 23 years old, from weakness and not eating. Her case is still debated. Some say mental illness, others say something supernatural. I even listened to her tape recordings, and man, those recordings are so uncomfortable that they stay in your mind. After finishing all that, I went to sleep around 2:30 a.m., but at 3:30 a.m., I suddenly woke up. I heard some sound from my kitchen, not a whisper, more like something fell off the shelf, and I went to check. And when I entered the kitchen, I felt this weird pressure, like someone just put their hand on my shoulder. When I turned back, no one was there. I got so freaking scared, I literally ran back to my room and tried to sleep. But I woke up again after half an hour, this time not from any noise, just randomly. When I opened my eyes, I swear I saw 2 faces right in front of mine. Not far, literally right there. It felt like those faces came close and pushed me up. My whole body froze. I can't even explain how scary that second was. My mind immediately remembered that exorcism voice, like it was waking me up again. I tried to distract myself, picked up my phone, watched some random stuff just to calm down. I listened to my favorite songs for 10 minutes, and even turned on the light to force myself to sleep again. But it didn't end there. When I finally slept again, suddenly my dog started vomiting. He was sleeping peacefully earlier, no issues. I cleaned everything, but again he stood up and started barking at nothing. After that, I tried to sleep again with the lights on, but somehow I fell asleep this time, and that's how the night ended. Guys, listen, that night was something else. I don't even know how I controlled myself. The only thing running in my head was, this is just in my mind, nothing is real. But seriously, how can everything happen at once? First I was trying to sleep, and suddenly I hear something fall in the kitchen. Not like a small sound, proper kitchen shelf. I thought maybe a cat came inside or something. But when I checked, nothing was there, empty, silent. But I swear I felt pressure on my shoulder after that, like someone kept their hand on me for a second. I wasn't taking any chances. I tried to sleep, but the moment I closed my eyes, boom, I woke up and saw 2 faces right in front of me. Not normal faces, dark, weird, close to my face like they pushed me upward. My heart was beating like crazy. And that exorcism voice I listened to earlier, it was stuck in my head, repeating again and again. I instantly grabbed my phone, turned the flashlight on just to kill the darkness. I started watching videos, listening to songs, anything to distract myself. But that voice and feeling was stuck in my mind. I know this is re-summarizing what I said, but it's so important to crystallize it. When I finally calmed a bit and tried to sleep again, my dog suddenly started vomiting. So I had to get up, clean everything. Then he started barking on and off like he sensed something. That was actually the scariest part. My dog never does that at night. After that I tried to sleep again, and then I heard something. A whisper or sound from the kitchen, again. Not clear, but enough to shake me. That entire night felt like something was happening around me, all after listening to that exorcism audio. Sometimes I actually wonder, did I accidentally invite something in? Or was my mind just messing with me? I don't know, man, but that night was hell. Story by Flower Power, The Marriage Objection. This was several years ago. I used to work as a prosecutor, and when I was brand new, I was assigned to a case that involved a relatively low-impact car crash. There was the defendant and the victims. No one was significantly injured, but there were some minor injuries. I called and talked to one of the victims on the phone. I very specifically remember him because he also worked at the courthouse and was new, and this was the first time I had met him, even though it was over the phone. He and his wife were mildly injured in the car accident, and we worked it out so medical bills were covered. He had an odd last name that I had never heard before, and a first name that could be male or female. He and his wife had the same last name. Just saying that to note, I know who I was talking to, and I know the facts. I even talked about it with another attorney. Anyway, fast forward to about a year ago. He and I interacted a lot. More frequently since I was in and out of the courthouse. I brought up how he was one of the first cases I was assigned, and I had forgotten about it until I mentioned it to him. He said he remembers the car accident, but it was just him and he doesn't have a wife or a girlfriend, and he's never been married. Listen, I vividly remember the details, because it was one of my first cases, and I was trying to do a good job. I've never understood how that could happen, and he thought it was very weird, and we dropped it, and I never brought it up again. Story by Dizzy Star, Office Glitch number 47. For background, when I was in high school, we had to attend internships of 2 weeks at the end of the second semester of the third year, and during that time, we had to make a kind of journal about it, where we write essays on given topics. Well, one day, I wanted to discuss some remaining questions about the journal with the CEO of the company. It was an accounting company, by the way. She sat me down in her office and we went through them, also just talking about other stuff and her giving me career advice. So she was sitting by her desk and I sat at the other side. On her desk, from my point of view, was her computer on the left side with supplies and paper stacks. Then there was another stack on the right side of the desk. Between us were just a few documents we talked about and her phone, placed beside the stack of papers on the right. Well, as we were talking, she gets some notifications but doesn't look at them. But eventually she gets a call, stands up, and I see her grab her phone from its place. "Sorry, but I have to pick this up," she says, as she practically runs out. Not just from her office, but the building, as it was a small one with just 3 rooms. So I was left in her office waiting for her to return. She was taking a long time, and I was just looking around. At first at the desk, but then that shifted out of view as I started looking at the certificates and paintings on the wall, then the decor on the glass table in the right end of the room. That's when I heard the sound of a notification and my head snapped right back to the desk. And there it was, her phone, that I saw her run out with, is now sitting in its place, beside the stack of papers on the right side of the desk. I stared at it, confused. Nobody has come into the office since she left. I would have heard or seen that, because the door was behind me. Somebody would have passed right by my chair to put a phone back there. And if it was her or one of the workers, they would have said something about it when they returned. I also didn't see that she would have had 2 phones or something. But even if she had, it wouldn't make sense, because I saw it in that place, even taking an unconscious mental note of the phone being beside the stack of papers. I saw her take it from there specifically, then without her ever returning, the phone is back in that place. If she did have 2 phones, it wouldn't be in the same place she took the other phone from. Like, you get what I mean. The sad part about this is that I never found out the answer in the end, if there is one. Because a bit after me noticing that, she still didn't return, and I just left the office to do my internship work for the day. And by the time she returned, a few customers arrived, and she immediately called one in to discuss something. Then shortly after, she had to leave for some business in another town, So I never got to see if she suddenly had two phones or had two all along. Or maybe that duplicate phone only existed while I was in there and disappeared when she returned. I think I'll never know. What do you think? Let me know if you have any logical explanation. I didn't think of any. P.S. Sorry for the long story. My ADHD brain can't tell a long story short. Story by Civil Technology 805. NORAD didn't clear this one. This happened Christmas Eve in the mid to late 90s, probably 1996 or 1997. I remember because I was in 4th or 5th grade and of an age where I probably should have no longer believed in Santa Claus, but clung on to the hope because I was kind of naive as a kid and also liked receiving presents. Every Christmas Eve, my dad's Air Force buddies would host a party. It was a tradition my family upheld since I was a baby, and I always loved attending because there were other kids to play with and we all got more presents. I remember that we had stayed later than in the past years, probably because I was getting older, and that it was almost midnight when we were finally driving home. We got home and I was excited to go to bed because, duh, it was Christmas Eve. We exited the car and I remember how still and quiet everything was in the night. My mom, dad, and I were all walking from the driveway to the front door of our house when I heard a distinct whoosh above my head. It's hard to describe the sound because it happened so long ago, but to my memory, I'd liken it to the sound of something flying by in a slow motion scene of a movie, just a very deliberate and clear whoosh. I looked up instinctively and really could not properly explain what I saw. About 40 to 50 feet above us, something the size of a small car flew by, trailing behind several pairs of smaller objects. Whatever the objects were, they made no engine-like or mechanical noise. They were very close to us, and I would have heard it if it was like a helicopter or something. Once again, it was extremely still and quiet in the outside air. I'm absolutely not sure if this is my flawed memory making stuff up, but I swear I faintly heard the ringing of sleigh bells. Once again, all I can attest to is my memory, but I was certain that I had seen Santa's sleigh fly overhead. My parents did not notice, and I was so freaked out and surprised that I didn't even try to bring it to their attention. I went inside and right to bed, knowing that Santa was in the area. Now, did I really see Santa Claus? Who knows? Probably not, since we're all, hopefully, adults here, and know he's not real. But I swear I saw something that at least invoked Santa in my mind. I remember very specifically that I saw what must have been a sleigh, and 8 reindeer, and even noted that Rudolph was not among them, as I did not see a glowing red light. Now, some folks may recognize that Colorado Springs is home to NORAD, who are known to track Santa every Christmas Eve. NORAD, of course, has their own history of strange tales and conspiracies attached, and I don't know if I saw Santa for real, but I'm sure I saw some sort of UFO. Now time for the jokes of the day. Last night in bed, my girlfriend was mumbling about being born in 1892 and writing The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I thought, she's Tolkien in her sleep again. From my 10-year-old. At dinner, I mentioned that for some reason the corn didn't actually taste much like corn. After a slight pause, my son deadpanned. That's corn-cerning. Perfect. 40 years ago today, I asked my childhood sweetheart, my best friend, and the most gorgeous woman I know, to marry me. All 3 said no. I mean, did they know they were all being proposed to? That could affect things. I was breastfed until 3. But enough about my day. How was yours? Ugh. This reminds me of Robin in Game of Thrones. Like, come on, he's too old for that. Alphabet is raising $80 billion by selling stock to invest in AI. I bet the other 24 letters are pissed. Jealousy. Alright, more glitches up here. Check him out. See you next time.